movie ticked a lot of boxes for me. It's Jeff Nichols. I really liked Take Shelter, I really liked Mud, and I really liked Midnight Special. So when Jeff Nichols had a new movie coming out, and this time he's got the likes of Tom Hardy, who I very much enjoy. He's got Austin Butler, who's kind of growing on me. I didn't love that Elvis movie, but I'm kind of growing to like the actor. Jodie from Killing Eve and all sorts of other films that she's been in recently where she just transforms herself. This movie is called The Bikeriders. I went to the cinema with my good lady wife. My name is Kevin Halden. This is Nerdly Out Loud, the official channel of nerdly.co.uk, your favourite British home for all the news, reviews, and exclusive interviews. Please do go over to the website nerdly.co.uk. Check out everything over there. We've got loads and loads and loads of reviews, loads of different reviewers, loads of different voices bringing their different thoughts, feelings, and opinions. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, and ding that notification bell. The notification bell means you will not miss an upload. You'll get a notification every single time that I make a new video and put it out there, so that's all good. So yeah, Bikeriders is... What I will do is I will do what I normally do, and I'll talk a little bit about the plot of the movie. I'll get into the cast and crew of the movie, what I did and didn't like about the movie, and then, of course, my final Nerdly Out Loud rating, which is my rating, but I'm sure somebody over on the website has also reviewed this movie, so do go over there and check that out as well, see what they thought. The best thing you can do is get as many different opinions as you want, go and see the movie, make your opinion, add it to the pile, and we're all gravy. So the movie starts off in a really interesting way where we meet... Well, actually, no, let's jump back a little bit, because before we meet him, we meet Austin Butler. Austin Butler is in a bar, dressed like a biker, looking awesome, like all bikers do, and he gets confronted by two local guys. These local guys are kind of like, you can't be in here wearing that cut. They beat the crap out of him. They go outside, gets beaten up a bit more. He beats them up, and then we cut to Jodie sitting in a laundrette. She's being interviewed. And what we're told via a title screen is that this movie is made up of an interview or excerpts from an interview that a journalist did back in the day, who cut around with these bikers and did loads of interviews and got the story about sort of like the original Vandals. And the Vandals is kind of like an original biker group, one of the few that started the whole thing that became this huge worldwide phenomena. So that's what the movie is. We're talking to Jodie She's giving us our story throughout, and she's telling us the story of Benny. Benny is played by Austin Butler. He's playing the stoic sort of leading man type, doesn't really have much emotions going on. He's rock solid. You know he's holding it all back. He's a man. He's a man's man, and he is just being a big manly man. I said man too many times there. So she kind of like meets him. She goes out with a friend to a bar. It ends up being a biker bar. She meets Benny, kind of instantly falls in love with him, because who wouldn't? It's Austin Butler. And what we find is that he is obviously a member of the Vandals, but there's this whole cast of other awesome misfits in this crew. Talking like Michael Shannon. Michael Shannon plays a great role in here. It's not a massive big role for Michael Shannon, but it's a nice role for him to play. And the leader of the gang is Tom Hardy, who plays Johnny. Johnny was obsessed with like the Wild Bunch, the Marlon Brando movie, and that is kind of what Tom Hardy's channeling in this movie. He even does some of the Marlon Brando, the Wild Bunch kind of movements. Like he's kind of doing those little bits, and the voice is a little bit lower. And we love Tom Hardy when he's doing an accent. And that's kind of what the movie is. I don't really know what else I can really get into, but it is the formation of the club. We're finding out how it started. We're kind of jumping around a little bit in the timeline, and it's sort of like giving us some of the more important aspects of what was going on, some of the meets they went to, some of the characters they meet up with, how they bring people into the club, how they deny people entry from the club. It sort of is Sons of Anarchy, but without all the hoopla and the rigmarole. Yes, there is hoopla and rigmarole, but we're not going to deal too much with all of that. That stuff is just sort of like accompaniment to the rest of the movie. Again, like I say, there's not a massive great deal I can tell you about the plot. It just kind of, it's a slow burn. It just kind of goes along at its own pace. We find out how it started. We see it in its heyday. We see it on the decline. We see what is going to happen when the new guys come in. But that's what's intriguing about it. It's a very ground level, basic story of a bunch of guys who are just cutting around. One of these guys meets a girl, the girl falls in love with him. How's that going to affect the dynamic? Of course it will, but will it? It might not. It will it? What's it going to do? And that's kind of the things we happen. And at some point, Norman Reedus pops in just to be Norman Reedus, and we love him for being Norman Reedus. Yes, cast and crew. We've already mentioned a few people, but far and away, the star of this movie, I would say, to be quite honest, is Jodie Comer as Kathy. I've seen a lot of people knocking her down for the accent. The accent is a bit out of kilter if you watch the likes of Killing Eve and some of the other things she's done, but she's doing something different, and I'm okay with that. I like when Jodie Comer stretches herself. It's an interesting, very layered character who's dealing with a very complex set of guys. And then we go on to the guys. Austin Butler, the cool, calm, doesn't really give a shit, takes a licking but keeps on ticking, gets on his bike, loves his bike, kind of falls off it quite a few times, not really interested in what the law is going to do or how people are going to see him. He just lives his life. And I really like this about Austin Butler. And the great thing about the character of Benny is that's throughout. Circumstances for him change and his life does change, but he kind of remains Benny. When you meet Benny, that's how you're going to leave Benny. There are things that happen to him that change the way he thinks, but it's essentially that's Benny. And I really, really like that because when you make a movie like this or when you see movies like this being made, there is a tendency to go the Hollywood route and he completely changes his ways and becomes an awesome bloke and we all love it. Tom Hardy is Johnny. I mean, I think there's not enough Tom Hardy in this. It was kind of billed as a Tom Hardy movie. I don't think it is a Tom Hardy movie. If it's going to be anybody's movie, I think it's like a split share 50-50 for Jodie Comer and Austin Butler. But Tom Hardy is in this movie a bunch. He's being awesome. He's being cool. He's being everything we want Tom Hardy to be. And he's more of the sentimental, emotional, he has feelings guy. Like when he starts out, he's trying to be Marlon Brando. But as it goes on, he realizes that actually this club means a lot more to him. And as people start to go or start to leave or start to die or whatever, we see Tom Hardy change. We see Johnny change. Problem for me is we don't spend enough time in Johnny's personal life to really get to know that. But I suppose that makes sense because of the way the movie's told, being interviews from Jodie Comer and some of the other guys. It's not really going to be Tom Hardy's story. So Johnny is a fantastic character. I love the character. He looks awesome in the cut. I'm really happy we got this from Tom Hardy. And Tom Hardy smashes out the park every time. And if he's doing an accent, he's happy, which makes me happy. Norman Reedus has given us some of the comic relief of the movie, and he's excellent. Doesn't have enough scenes. I think he only really has maybe 2-3 scenes. Doesn't really do a great deal in the movie, but his character is really cool. I really liked him, and it's great to see Norman Reedus being in a biker movie. It's what he was made for. We've all seen The Walking Dead. We've all seen his TV show where he goes out on his bikes and stuff like that. So it's Norman Reedus to a T, and he plays it fantastically. He brings a different aspect to this gang, to this crew. And another character I would really like to point out is Boyd Holbrook as Cal. I really rate Boyd Holbrook as an actor. I think he's got it going in all the right places. I think given movies like this, these are his kind of movies. Like, we don't want to see Boyd Holbrook turning up in a Marvel movie trying to play a superhero. I'm sure he could do that, and I'm sure he'd be great at it. But these are his kind of movies, these kind of period piece things where it's guys, being awesome. And I loved it. Like, I could do with more of Boyd Holbrook, if I'm honest, just in his career, out in the world, just more movies that he gets to be in. But in this, I really like this character. It's a nice little side character. Doesn't do a great deal, but I'm all about it. Things I didn't like. Okay, so this is a little bit of a mixed bag. This is when I get to kind of take the movie down a little peg or two. And one of the things is the jumping around of the timeline. While it's not hard to really keep up with it, it does jar things a tiny little bit. It doesn't take anything away from the movie. It doesn't diminish from the movie. I just kind of wanted it to be this steady paced movie where we have this slow burn to a crescendo and we're going to get maybe some action at the end, but we're going to see some hiccups along the way. Jeff Nichols as a director, I'm a big fan. I knew what I was getting going in because I've seen Mud, I've seen Midnight Special, I've seen take shelter. It's really well written. It's superbly acted by Austin Butler and Jodie Comer. They do some great stuff. Tom Hardy, when he's acting alongside Jodie Comer, there's a bit of tension there that I don't know if it was meant to be, but it's bloody palpable, and I was really there for it. I loved it. The cinematography on this film is absolutely gorgeous. There's nothing better than seeing a bunch of bikers coming over the hill in a little bit of a V, just driving along on their bikes, looking cool as shit, with a nice soundtrack over the top. And we get a bunch of that in this movie. And that's, I mean, can you ask for any more? Can you really ask for any more? Everybody looks awesome on their bikes. The way it's shot is sexy. Even the little moments where people are just kind of sitting on the grass, it looks sexy. This movie makes bikers look awesome. Same way the Wild Bunch did back in the day, the same way Sons of Anarchy does, the same way Mayans does. Everybody looks awesome in this movie because of the cinematography, and that's a good thing. While I really do like the ending, it kind of just comes to an abrupt halt. I thought we'd slow burn this movie right the way through, and it leaves you in a spot of, wait, what? Like, this is where we're ending? Like, what comes next? What happens next? Probably the sign of a good movie because it makes me want more. So, bit of a weird nitpick, but honestly, I needed something out of this. When you invest your time and when you give your time to a movie like this that has slow played you all the way through, and you've had these awesome little scenes where actors are just kind of like looking at each other and feeling each other out and just playing around with the dialogue and the scenes and stuff like that and just having fun with it. Tom Hardy always looks like he's having fun in this movie. But when you're doing all that, I'm now invested. I now want these characters to succeed. And if they're not going to succeed, I want to know why they're not going to succeed. And when we get to the end, it just kind of ends. There is a definitive ending, I guess. We do kind of know where everybody ends up, I guess. But I kind of wanted something a little bit extra. And maybe that's the case of it's a true story, so there's only so much we can fictionalize. There's only so much we can dramatize. There's only so much we can run with. Maybe it's a bit of a case of that. And if it is, fair enough. It was just something that I wanted as a viewer, sat in the cinema watching this movie. I wanted to walk out feeling like I just watched something awesome, something cool, something epic. And I felt like that in the cinema as I was watching it. But when I left the cinema, I maybe didn't feel that anymore. Like the feeling of that leaving me was quite instant, if I'm honest. But yeah, so I'm just going to skip now to my final rating, and that is the Nerdly Out Loud rating. It's my rating, Kevin Halden, nerdly.co.uk. But for me, this movie sits on a 3. It's a middle of the road 3 out of 5. I can't really go too much higher because, like I say, I wanted to come out of there and be thinking about this movie for days. I didn't really think about it until I thought, right, let's sit down to do a review. Let's get our thoughts out there. And that's when I started to really think about it again. And that's not a great sign because there's other things I've watched recently that I've wanted to watch again the next day. I've talked about it to my friends when I get to work. I've done all of that. I knew I watched something. I knew at the time I liked it. My eyes, my ears, everything was being hugely satisfied all over the face, neck, and chest. However, the next day, there was no real cleanup. I wasn't really thinking about it anymore. It's a solid movie. 100% go and check it out. Tom Hardy's fantastic. Austin Butler's fantastic. Jodie Comer is wonderful. Do check out this movie. I like Jeff Nichols as a director. I will 100% be checking out his future filmography, and you should go back and check out some of the stuff he's done in the past because he's done some great films. Please do all those wonderful things. For now, though, I'm going to go 3 out of 5. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. You get the notifications every time I upload a video. I'll be back with another interview, review, or something like that. But for now, I am off. Go to your local cinema and check out the Bikeriders.